I think a lot about why audiences come to a show, or why theater still matters, especially in this world where you have a lot of all these things on screens and video games. And I think there's something that is so meaningful about bodies in space. People being together and having a mutual shared experience where you're, again, experiencing empathy, where you are gaining a certain story that maybe you weren't aware of, and it expands your understanding of the world. It's creative, it's joyful, it's positive. I think that can completely change their understanding of the world at large. And again, things that they thought weren't possible, all of a sudden they're seeing made possible. My name is Reagan Linton, and I'm the artistic director of Phamaly Theater Company. Phamaly is what we call a disability affirmative theater company. So it basically means that we treat disability as a creative asset. So all of our performers have some kind of disability, physical, cognitive, intellectual, or emotional. And we produce main stage plays and musicals that use these disabled artists and highlight their disabilities in creative ways.
And you know, being a Denver staple for the past 30 years, they've become an integral piece of the theater community here. Just again, providing dynamic, innovative, and exciting performance opportunities that explore how you can make theater accessible for all performers and all audience members. I believe in the mission. I am passionate about it. I'm always excited about what we can create together when we all put our minds to making theater possible for everyone.
People over in Japan who really have loved and supported our work with Phamaly, and so they invited us to, I guess, essentially apply to be part of this festival. Just thank you, arigato gozaimasu, and we're so excited. When we got the opportunity to look at taking a production to Japan, I was thinking about what shows were the right size for traveling, what shows felt like they had a story that would resonate with a global audience, and also were family friendly. That's how I ended up settling on HONK.
Look at him, look at me, look at you. You'll agree, anywhere you look will be less green.
HONK is a musical adaptation of the story of The Ugly Duckling. And, you know, it's the classic tale. The ugly duckling doesn't look like his brothers and sisters, and the entire farm is definitely questioning who he is, why he looks different, and changes how ugly the main character sees himself. And he doesn't quite come to understand himself until he goes through this journey of meeting all of these other characters and animals along the way that teach him a lesson about what's important.
My looks may well be funny, but I hurt the same inside. But different isn't spiteful, different isn't wrong.
He talks about different isn't bad, different isn't, you know, it's not a negative thing. It's I'm just different, and that really resonated with me. And I think what our mission is as Phamaly is to say, yeah, we are different, but that's not a bad thing. It can be a creative thing. It can be a positive thing. I think some of our actors are the most creative people because they have to be in their lives. You know, if I go somewhere and there's not an elevator or there's not a ramp, then you have to be creative about solving that little problem. So I think challenges, they can be difficult and they bring up emotion and they make us sad and angry and frustrated, but that's being human. And then in the end, ultimately, they make us stronger and they make us more creative.
Hello, I'm Jacob Elledge, and I'm playing the bullfrog in HONK the Musical. I came to Phamaly because a friend of mine from high school auditioned way before I did. I saw their production of The Fantastics, and I was so blown away by the fact that such great performances were coming that I wanted to be part of that. And I was amazed to find out that they cast actors with disabilities, and of course I have one myself, so I decided, yes, I do want to audition. I have autism, that's my disability. I started acting in high school, and it was very difficult to get started and get the confidence. So I was nervous about auditioning for Phamaly, but I was so thankful that they called me back after my first audition. I definitely noticed a change in myself after I performed in that first musical because I became a lot more confident. I started to bloom out of my shell, and after that first show I've been in 8 shows counting this one, so it's just been amazing.
Hi, my name is Adam Russell Johnson. I'll be playing Ugly in... Actually, Ugly is very similar to myself. Ugly loses his mother, like they become separated. I actually lost my mother to cancer. In my normal life, my job, I'm a cashier in a hardware store, and I have to sit down. A lot of comments from people, just sort of, why are you sitting down? You're lazy, that kind of thing. And so this is sort of a very personal story for me to be able to tell. And just sort of growing up, I was made fun of the same way Ugly is in the show. So I'm able to draw on a lot of my own life experience to be able to play Ugly. They allow me to harness all the emotions that I have and throw them up on stage, channel it into a performance. And I think that's, for me, that's a very healthy way to explore those emotions.
やっぱり一人一人の懐が広いんだろうなと思います。寛容というか、この人こういう障害持ってるよねっていうのをやっぱり忘れちゃうんですよね。それぐらい彼らたちのその演技とかやっぱり人間性っていうのは魅力があるものなので、一人一人が積み重ねてきた人生がその舞台上でいろんな引き出しとなってポンポンポンと出てくる。私のやるペニーっていう役は結構ヒロインの役なので可愛い子がやることが多いんですよ。これちょっとやばい、私やったことないヒロイン的な役じゃんと思ったんですよ。特に私がちょっとこれを私が言っていいセリフなのかなと思ったのが、アグリーとペニーとのやり取りのところで、名前をなんて言うの、私だけ、僕はみにくいアヒルの子って言われてるんだと、そんなこと気にしちゃダメだよって、それは一つの段階だから気にしないで大丈夫、そんなのすぐ過ぎ去るからさみたいなっていうセリフがあるんですけど、それ多分板に乗ってる全員が抱えてきた、通ってきた道だと思うんですよね。やっぱり見た目だったりとか障害とかで絶対言われてきた、私も言われてきた、なんかそれをなんかね、それちょっとあれなんですけど、こうステージだって言える、それを言える立場になった人たちが言ってるので、なのでそれはちょっと自分と重なるところがあるな。こう相手との掛け合いをやっていくときにやっぱりちょっとそう心境が変わってきたっていうか、本当はペニーっていう役は白鳥だからちょっと崇高っていうかちょっと気高いところを見せようかなってところもあったんですけど、それいらないなってちょっと思って、結構割とキャピキャピした感じをでもいいじゃんみたいな感じにちょっと役作りに変えてみました。
Our version, Ugly doesn't change himself. He comes back to the barnyard and he's exactly what he is, but everybody else has changed their perspective of him and grown more accepting. He just has a discovery about himself. So I think that's what is valuable in the story of HONK.
It isn't about, I'm a pretty swan now and everything, is better. It's that sense of acceptance. It's that sense of acceptance of self, and also knowing that one can be in this world and move their body or experience life in a way, and the way that they do it is wonderful and special. I think one of the biggest hallmarks is the collaboration we've had with Sam and Ken. Sam being a family company member who is blind, and Ken being here from Japan who is deaf. The two of them play the cat, and they move in tandem with each other, and they cue one another, and Ken will sign in American Sign Language while Sam is voicing, and it's so dynamic and it's so innovative.
My name is Sam Barrasso, and I am playing the voice of the cat.
You can live the food before you buy it. You can toy with your tech before the price.
I am the voice of the cat who wants nothing more than to eat the ugly duckling. My favorite animal is a cat, or I've had 2 cats in my lifetime, so their mannerisms, that was also kind of my inspiration. Ken is fantastic. He's so funny and he's so ridiculously talented. He is probably the best dancer I've ever seen.
猫にこう入りきっていて、僕自身もいやサムのその的な声とか鳴き声とかそういうのに負けてられねえと思って。
But I was really interested in wondering how this experience was going to go. We need to figure out other ways to communicate.
事前に今回こういう歌うよっていうその音源、それを補聴器に直接送る機会があるんだけど、聞いて自分で体で思えて、私がだからやっぱり聞こえないっていうのがあって、それを伝えると、じゃあサムから合図みたいなものを入れようとか、そこからそういう工夫がちょっと生まれたんですね。
Using the universal language of movement to communicate. We do a lot of shoulder taps as we're, when I cue him to sign. So it's just been a really cool learning experience for both of us.
演じて、バックステージに帰った後にちょっとさっきの動き分かったとかでこう笑い合ったりとかすることがあったんだけど、なんかそういう自然とこう伝え合っているっていう感じっていうのは稽古を重ねていくにとてもなんか楽しくなって、だからこそ多分一体感のあるこう猫をこう表現できてるんじゃないかなって、僕もサムにすごく感謝しています。
Why audiences come to a show. Why theater still matters, especially in this world. We need different ways to think about ourselves and to make meaning in life. And I think that's what the arts gives us. And performing arts in particular, because it's about the body and it's about moving your body through space and interacting with other bodies and feeling the energy exchange between you and an audience. I hope they have a really good time. And I hope they see a lot of different actors with different abilities who are very talented and very professional, and I hope that they see the love that is up there among the actors, and then ultimately at the end of the story. But I hope they come away feeling like, in the same way that people in the play, the transformation occurs around the perception of ugly, that each of the audience members can also transform their own sense of self.